All right, it looks like fewer people are joining, so we'll wait about 1 minute and then get started.
There we go.
Hello, it looks like admissions into the hearing. Oh, a few more are joining and then we'll get started. Thank you for your patience. All right, we will go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this public hearing on the Michigan Department of Transportation's proposed administrative rules for roadside facilities. The proposed rules would apply to all MDOT right-of-way, including 61 highway rest areas, 82 roadside parks, 267 carpool lots, 23 scenic turnouts, and 14 welcome centers. I am Monica Mansma, MDOT's Public Involvement and Hearings Specialist. Today we have American Sign Language interpreters, Joel and Emily, on the hearing with us. You can click on their image and the presentation will minimize and they will be prominently displayed on your screen. Please feel free to do that so you can fully participate in today's public hearing. Now I would like to introduce Greg Lash.
Thank you, Monica. My name is Greg Losh, and I'm with MDOT, and I am MDOT's University Region Engineer.
Thank you, Greg. And now I would like to introduce Jocelyn Garza.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jocelyn Garza. I'm with MDOT's Office of Public Affairs.
Thank you, Jocelyn. As we get started, we ask that you participate in our Title VI survey. The Title VI survey helps us assess our outreach efforts and is required as part of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. You can use the QR code on the screen, or if you can view the Q&A function in Teams, you will see a hyperlink you can click on there as well. All right. Today we will begin with a presentation and then we will open the hearing up to formally receive public comments. After the presentation, you can use the raise hand function and we'll call on you to unmute and speak. You may have your camera on or off. It really is up to you. If you've joined by phone, we will call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. You can use *6 to mute and unmute, and we will give you a bit of time to do so. If you don't wish to make a comment, you can either say pass or remain quiet, and we will move on to the next phone number. In addition to today's public hearing, you can also submit written comments. I might just go back to the other slide a sec. Oh, sorry, getting ahead of myself. In addition to speaking at today's public hearing, you can submit written comments at michigan.gov/ROW rules or by email to mdot-publiccomments@michigan.gov. The public comment period closes on November 20th, 2025. Throughout this hearing, you can use the Q&A function to ask questions or get more information. Please do not use it for public comments. We want to make sure we accurately and meaningfully record all perspectives, which is why we ask that you not use the Q&A for formally providing a public comment. Today's hearing provides an opportunity to submit public comments for the record on the proposed administrative rules. MDOT is following the rulemaking process from the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs called LARA. Within LARA, the Michigan Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules helps state agencies like MDOT and provides a professional, impartial, and respectful rulemaking process that's consistent with all legal requirements. Now I will pass it over to Greg.
All right, thank you, Monica. Again, my name is Greg Losh, and I'm going to kind of talk a little bit today about the background behind the administrative rules, why MDOT is seeking these rules, what they are for, and some next steps. So these rules are designed to enhance MDOT's commitment to providing the public with safe, well-maintained facilities. They do this by establishing a base level of expectations for use of public facilities that MDOT has jurisdiction over. Some are asking, why now? Why are we getting into this at this time? Well, for many years, MDOT has had internal rules and guidance on the intended use of MDOT facilities. However, they were not linked to any law or rule, so therefore not statutorily backed. We lacked the legal authority to ask for help addressing behaviors that typically lead to bigger issues. This resulted in MDOT struggling to respond to public complaints and negative impacts to the quality of the facilities and negatively impacting the public's experience at our facilities. With the rules in place, MDOT will have the tools it needs to prioritize our limited resources to better serve the public. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, as part of today's public hearing, MDOT would like to clarify a few things and provide information and context. There's been a lot of focus on a camping ban, but these rules really work to clarify that MDOT facilities are designed and intended for short-term use, not long-term stays. The rules are not written to criminalize being unhoused or homeless. As written, they apply to everyone, and they establish the same expectations for use of MDOT facilities for all who visit them. Prohibited activities, defined timeframes are intended to discourage behaviors that impact public safety and the quality of the facilities. Expectations associated with activities like short-term timeframes for parking, leashes for pets. At many of our facilities, we offer dog runs or pet runs. We lack a rule that requires our pets to be on leashes. Clarifying that fires are only to be in designated areas is a rule we did not have before. Activities that require official permission or permits are clarified within the rules. Some prohibited activities other than camping include the consumption of alcohol, fireworks, excessive noise, unauthorized vending, blocking access to others, parking in other places that are not designated for parking, hunting, fishing, swimming, and dumping of materials, including sewage. We've heard concerns from the public regarding, misconceptions that people will not be allowed to park their vehicles overnight or sleep in their cars. Those rules, our proposed rules, do not prohibit such things. They simply establish short-term timeframes for them. If you're on a long road trip and you get sleepy, you need to get out of your vehicle and stretch your legs. MDOT welcomes you at our facilities to stop, pull over, rest, catch a few Z's. But for short-term use, not long-term stays. Next slide, please. So just a quick review of the goals. Our goals are, our proposed rules are intended to address behaviors that lead to bigger issues. MDOT is not and will not become an enforcing agency with these rules. The majority of the time that we become aware of situations that have become problems are throughout the time frame when our staff are going about their jobs, like inspecting facilities or stopping by to drop off materials, or through public complaints. MDOT ensures that with these public rules, with these administrative rules, that the public will be protected at our facilities as best as we can provide. Next slide, please. So how did we develop our rules? We started with MDOT's operational needs, a review of how the facilities were intended to be used and how we maintain them. And then we surveyed surrounding states and states across the United States for what other states had in place for rules or laws. And these are a few examples of how MDOT compares. In most cases, and in fact, all cases that I reviewed, MDOT is proposing to be the most generous with our timeframes. Next slide, please. We're also in alignment with other states on what they do for banning camping. It is not typically allowed for camping to take place at rest areas across the United States. Next slide, please. So enforcement, we get a lot of questions about what does enforcement look like associated with these rules. Violations may result in a misdemeanor, and penalties will vary based on where the violation takes place. But one thing that does not change is MDOT is not the enforcing agency. MDOT is compliant, looking for compliant-driven results, and we want to promote compliance and not punishment. Next slide, please. So once the rules become official, we plan to post that information so that everyone is clear regarding the expectations. And in addition to those signs, we have also, through coordination with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, developed additional signing that will help provide information for anyone who may be experiencing a crisis or searching for help. All of this is tied together as part of our administrative rule process as we move forward to providing as much information as we can at our facilities. Next slide, please. So as we've gone through the process, our public outreach has included press releases. We've been posting signs at many of our carpool lots, roadside parks, welcome centers, and rest areas with information on how to provide public comment, how to contact MDOT, how to find out more information. We've also worked collaboratively with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Michigan State Housing Development Authority, and other state agencies. And our goal is to continue to be transparent as we go through this process, as we reach out to local governments and communities and other organizations to share information and gather input. Next slide, please. So the next steps. So starting with this timeline, MDOT realized that administrative rules for our facilities were needed years ago. We looked at our operational needs and how our facilities were being maintained with the limited resources we have. And we surveyed other states and looked at what was going on in other states regarding rules and their laws. We developed our draft rules, opened up public comment period on October 8th, and it runs through November 20th. Once that timeframe closes, we will carefully consider all comments for possible revisions to within the alignment of our rules. We want to make sure that they still address what we're trying to accomplish with them. And then the next steps are the rules go to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, which is a committee made up of 5 state senators and 5 state representatives from Michigan's legislature. Implementation is variable at this point in time. We don't have a conclusive time frame because we're not sure how long it will take for us to review the comments and go through the remaining steps of the official rulemaking process. But our goal is to have something in place by early next spring, 2026. Next slide, please. Okay, and I think at this point in time, I'm going to turn it back over to Monica.
Thanks, Greg. As you mentioned, we will carefully review and consider all comments. We will also provide written responses and post them at michigan.gov/ROW rules. And as a reminder, you can still submit written comments until November 20th, 2025. And those written comments can be submitted on the website or by email to mdot-publiccomments@michigan.gov. If you would prefer to use US mail, we gladly accept written comments through the mail. And you can mail them to me, Monica Mansma, and I'll spell my last name in case there is anyone on the phone. It is MONSMA, care of MDOT B245. That B245 helps our mailroom get it over to me. P.O. Box 30050, Lansing, Michigan 48909. All right, excuse me. Now we will begin the public comment portion of today's hearing. Please use the raise hand function and you will be called on to speak. If you've joined by phone, I'll quickly reiterate that process. We will call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. That way everyone here will have an opportunity to speak. And we really appreciate your cooperation with that. All right, I will stop sharing in a moment so I can see the raised hands, and we will begin. All right, just 1 second. And I appreciate your patience. There are many conveniences to being virtual, but there are also, tech challenges that we work through as well. So thank you for your patience. All right. The first hand raised on my list is Shannon Tanis. So if you would like to go ahead, unmute and speak, and also turn your camera on or off, whatever you feel more comfortable doing.
Actually, can I go after Nick Cook? He's the director of Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. I'm a member, but he's presenting on behalf of the organization today. So I just kind of jumped the gun. So if you could put me after him down the line, please.
Yeah, no problem. And if I mix up the order, just feel free to unmute and let me know. All right. Next is Susan. And also, I apologize if I mispronounce names. I also have a last name that gets mispronounced all the time. So thank you for your patience with me if I do any mispronunciation. Next is Susan Fectu. If you would like to unmute, you can go ahead and share your public comment.
Hello. First, I guess it's a question. The quote unquote other facilities, things like bridges, culverts, and so on. I'm not as concerned about the welcome centers and the rest stops. Are you talking about the pedestrian bridges that go over our highways as that being the other properties that you will ban things like protesting, placards, signs, and so on? We've been doing visibility brigade, and this sounds to me like squashing free speech because we've been doing the bridges and overpasses It's been happening in states across the country. And my concern is that these new rules will prevent us from being able to do that.
Thank you, Susan. We typically just take public comment during this time, but you raise a great point regarding like pedestrian bridges, etc. I don't know, Greg, if you have any clarifying information you'd like to add or not.
Yeah, our goal with these rules are not to in any way restrict freedom of speech. We are looking for and to establish a permit process for much of this. Pedestrian structures may be less of an issue, but a lot of our overpasses, it is not safe for people to protest or to voice their opinions without some coordination and without some planning ahead of time. And with MDOT's responsibility to provide safe facilities, we would require some sort of permit or written permission to allow that, to make sure that the steps have been taken to coordinate traffic control, or to make sure that we understand what time of day it's going to take place, so that we aren't doing things that could put people in harm's way.
All right, thanks, Susan and Greg. Next is Mariah, voters.
My name is Mariah Bryant, and I represent Voters Not Politicians, the grassroots organization that sets the highest standard for volunteer circulation in Michigan. I also represent thousands of everyday Michiganders who utilize public property to exercise their constitutional right to free speech and direct democracy by collecting signatures in support of a ballot initiative that they truly believe in. The public property includes public sidewalks, outside of government buildings, and of course at public rest stops. And I'm deeply concerned about the impact of this potential rule change and what it will mean for direct democracy and petition circulation. Circulating petitions is constitutionally protected free speech, and preserving Michiganders' right to circulate in public spaces is integral to protecting our right to direct democracy. Prohibiting all petition circulation at rest stops would be an act of inappropriate government overreach and would obstruct free speech. Well-trained circulators like those at Voters Not Politicians understand how to appropriately circulate on public property without interfering with the other's use of that public property. Any circulators who are not capable of conducting themselves appropriately should be dealt with on an individual basis, but not by a wholesale prohibition on fundamentally legal and constitutionally protected free speech. I recognize that there are a number of impacts you're seeking with this rule change, but I urge you to preserve these vital public spaces in a way that proactively enshrines Michiganders' ability to exercise their fundamental rights to free speech and direct democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah. Next is Olivia Vitale. And I will say Olivia is next, followed by Nick Cook. That may give you, I'll proceed in that format so that you will know where you are in the queue. So Olivia followed by Nick.
There are two of us, but if we only have 3 minutes, I'm just going to try to rush through. I want to offer a unique perspective here as someone who's been a victim of a semi-truck accident and also had people, other accidents as well, where people have been tired driving. I definitely understand setting the expectations for the use of a public space, but I believe that setting any kind of time restriction on paper that then becomes statutory would definitely provide truck drivers as well as people maybe pause when they go and they're driving. If they're tired and they see a rest area, they may pause instead of choosing to go to the rest area and sleep off, whatever they need to. They may choose to continue driving and create a dangerous atmosphere for the public. So I definitely hope that you guys reconsider that. And of course, the political stuff, I understand. I don't really fully agree with that either. But setting expectations, I think, is important. I do think that the idea of what's being proposed is good, but I definitely think it needs to be revisited.
All right. Hi, I'm Olivia. I believe that this ban does affect homeless people who are forced to live in their car. If someone cannot afford housing and cannot get into a shelter, this is an option that's made from desperation. Nobody wants to live in their car, and criminalizing that is wrong. This is also a waste of time and money to enforce. Our law enforcement officers should not be chasing down people living in their cars. They should be focused on violent crime. Thank you.
Thanks to you both. Next is Nick Cook, followed by Shannon Tanis.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Cook, and I serve as the Director of Public Policy for the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today in opposition to the Michigan Department of Transportation's proposed rules as currently written regarding permitted use of MDOT right-of-way. While MICA supports the intent behind MDOT's rulemaking process, we must express serious concerns about the potential for these rules to further criminalize homelessness. As the leading advocacy coalition representing Michigan's more than 33,000 unhoused individuals, we believe these regulations risk exacerbating the challenges faced by one of our state's most vulnerable population. Unhoused individuals often seek shelters in areas such as freeway underpasses, park and ride lots, and roadside rest areas, spaces that may fall under MDOT jurisdiction. These locations can offer temporary protection from the elements when no other options are available. MICA is committed to ensuring that all individuals experiencing homelessness are treated with dignity and are connected to the resources necessary to achieve stable housing. Michigan is currently facing a severe housing crisis, particularly for residents in the extremely low and low-income brackets. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, our state is short approximately 185,000 affordable housing units. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, rental costs have increased by 20 to 25% in many communities, further straining access to housing and increasing rates of homelessness. At the same time, available resources to assist those in need have diminished. Criminalizing individuals who are simply trying to survive by issuing misdemeanors or fines for occupying MDOT property does not address the root causes of homelessness. Instead, it imposes additional barriers that can delay or derail efforts to secure housing and stability. Even a minor fine can set someone back weeks or months, making it harder to access services or regain footing. To ensure a more humane and effective approach, MICA respectfully requests that the following provisions be incorporated into MDOT's rules. 1, training for MDOT personnel to recognize and appropriately engage with unhoused individuals. 2, a minimum 2-week notice prior to requiring individuals to vacate MDOT right-of-way. 3, coordination with local continuums of care to connect individuals with housing and support services. 4, a plan for property retrieval, ensuring individuals can reclaim personal belongings if displaced from MDOT property. We urge MDOT to consider these recommendations as part of a broader commitment to compassion and equity. Asking individuals if they need help rather than penalizing them can be the first step towards a path to stable housing. MICA looks forward to continuing our collaboration with MDOT to address shared concerns while upholding the dignity and rights of Michigan's unhoused residents. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Nick. Next is Shannon Tanis, followed by Rapid Integrated Solutions.
Thank you. My name is Shannon Tanis, and I'm a member of Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. I also am a civil rights advocate. I'm also impacted by homelessness chronically since 2019, but most currently for the past 10 months living out of my vehicle. The fact that the state does not adhere to a disposal of public property to address the McKinney-Vento Act, and that we have significant amount of children being impacted by homelessness, and the fact that we have had such maladministration with fraud, waste, and abuse with the government bodies, the state departments and agencies that are supposed to be oversighting these mechanisms and not providing adequate housing, we are at extraordinary times. And not to address the constitutional protection of people to have the right to exist and survive wherever their needs are necessary, this is a direct violation of that. if we look in past times where we didn't have to make rules into an administrative process and then use law enforcement to make it a criminal act, you would see that there was no cause or concern. Our rest stops and things of that nature were perfectly safe and fine, ordinarily. So therefore, having to do this kind of proposal of rules and incitement of authority just reiterates the crisisness and the inability of the state to address that continually. So I agree with Nick, and I am in opposition against this, and that everyone has the common sense and understanding that you generally do not cause harm. And we have laws and rules to protect the public safety and address those issues regarding arson and physical harm upon people and drug use and things of that nature. But people generally peacefully existing and using the facilities just to have means to be clean and survive and exist should not be criminalized in any capacity. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shannon. Next is Rapid Integrated Solutions, followed by Pat.
Thank you. My name is Chad Albert. I'm a civil structural engineer and went to Western and graduated with honors. Greg, you and I know about stopping sight distance and braking distance and all the calculations that go into traffic analysis and everything that MDOT does. And your organization is critical and necessary. With that, I also have to agree with everything that they mentioned about the homeless situation. I don't have anybody in my family who's homeless. I'm not really connected to the organization, the community. We don't donate to their organization or anything of that nature. However, in the interest of upholding the state motto and everything that is, pure Michigan, it's probably in good interest that we remain a inviting environment for all, whether they are financially well off or those that may be financially burdened. Just an observation in general is that everything that's been mentioned for reasoning for the proposed rules sounds like we already have laws in place for them, such as inappropriate dumping of waste. There's legal action against that. Inappropriate hunting, and so forth, vandalism, drug use, all these safety concerns. We already have laws in place, and questionable individuals or individuals with questionable intent. One more law they're not going to listen to in the first place anyway. And the people that are innocently partaking of these facilities, whether it's somebody who owns a dually with a triple axle camper, coming to Michigan to enjoy this beautiful state, or somebody who's fallen on hard times and maybe needs, a rest for a bit, to go after somebody who, let's say, is homeless and to treat them as a criminal, and then the court costs of everything that would be associated with prosecuting them. And honestly, at the end of the day, if they're homeless in the first place, I don't know if they're going to have the money to cover the court costs or the fines and that would go on top of it. Like, logically, it just doesn't hold a lot of weight. And so I just want to speak up as somebody who was born, raised in Michigan, has been all over the nation, out west, has used remote camping sites off grid, and experienced things that other states have done that have been successful while still using facilities. Just want to recommend that we don't go forward with this.
Thank you very much. Next is Pat, followed by Susan.
Hello, my name's Pat Alexander, and some of the rest areas that you folks have that you've put together. Some of them are just gorgeous. There's one rest stop that I always go to up in the UP right on Lake Michigan, outside the town. I think it was Engadine, I think is the name of it. But recently, I'm a furloughed federal employee, so I haven't been getting a paycheck. I had to come up to the UP to get, I had to have oral surgery done. And thank God for that rest stop, because I really didn't have the money to spend the night overnight. And I just crashed there for a few hours and went on to my appointment. And my other question to you is, I know a few years ago, you used to allow charitable organizations to come into these rest areas with their trailers, and they would sell like coffee and cookies and things like that. And maybe that's an idea that you allow that to happen again. And maybe they could help with these people who are homeless, that homeless coalition. Maybe they could have something like that at these rest stops, not all the time, but on occasion. And I would imagine it's probably more prevalent in the summer, more so than in the winter, but I don't know. And then two, do welcome centers operate differently, have different hours than rest areas? Because there's a welcome center, it's also a rest area outside the city of Marquette, and they've got signs up that says no overnight staying. That's about all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next is Susan, followed by Brenda Clark.
Hello. I wanted to follow up on the first question that Susan F. asked about protests on overpasses. The answer to that question was that permits or coordination would be needed. My first question, if it's possible to answer, is would this apply to overpasses with sidewalks?
Thank you.
And then I have follow-up if that could be answered.
Yeah,
Or should I say all of it?
That's not typically the intent here. So we, as part of this process and the public input that we're receiving, we'll review this language. We are more or less looking for any time where pedestrians could be in conflict with traffic. So that's what we're kind of looking at as being our main cause of concern.
I understand, but the answer to that was that it wasn't safe and so coordination would be needed. So my question is, if there's an overpass with a road and then like a raised up sidewalk and people are protesting on the raised up sidewalk part of that, are you saying that that would still need coordination?
That's what we need to review that language a little more. I'm not sure
so
the
unsure
answer
right
that
now.
Yeah, I need to look at it a little bit closer and review that some more. Yep.
And then the second question would be, who would be coordinating with local police departments?
As part of the rules, we define kind of a permit process where there will be contacts available to contact MDOT and work through a permit process.
Oh, with MDOT?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then who will be enforcing all of these new regulations?
As we talked about before, MDOT is not an enforcing agency, and our first call is not intended to be to police. We have a base, we're looking to establish a base level of expectation. So at the end of the day, if we reach out and say, hey, listen, we really need you to change your behavior, and someone says to us, hey, we're not willing to do that, then yeah, our call would have to be to the police, because it's not our job to enforce.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And Susan, did you also have anything else to add, any formal comment that you would like to provide?
No, I'll submit a formal comment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and since we're in the midst of the verbal public comment, this is a great time to remind everyone that if you need more time to consider your comment, or you would just prefer to do it in writing, in the Q&A, there are many formats for submitting a written comment, and the comment period closes on November 30th. All right. And I hope I am in the right order here. I believe next is M. Cento, followed by David Buskirk. And it looks like Cento is no longer here. Susan, there is still a hand raised. I just want to make sure all right. This is again how it goes, being the conveniences of virtual plus working through some of the logistics. So thank you for your patience. Next is David Buskirk, followed by Silvano.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is David Buskirk from Kalamazoo. I have one very specific concern, and I won't ask a question, so you don't have to answer it. My concern is with the park and rides and the 48-hour time limit. Park and rides were developed for people who have to share rides to go to work, and many of those people go out of town for a week at a time. Also, the park and rides are used for bus trips where people will get on the bus, leave, park their car and leave for up to 2 weeks and then come back. We've been doing that here in Kalamazoo with their blessing on Kilgore Road. But with the new rules at 48 hours, my suggestion would be to establish a permitting system very specific for those who need to park more than 48 hours in a park and ride only. And so they wouldn't be violating that 48 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next is Silvano, followed by Brenda Clark.
Hey, good afternoon. Silvano Venegas. I'm also from Kalamazoo. I have one general concern. It seems like this is a solution in search of a problem. I'm not sure what these rules are in response to, but in regards to the ongoing nationwide and state criminalization of the unhoused, this seems like a slap into the face to the people that are least able to take it. And then in regards to the First Amendment encroachment, I think just consider if there's a message that you want to get out, that you have to run that by somebody who may not agree with you further up in the MDOT department or the permitting department, how that could necessarily impede free speech. And I think the bridge brigades across the state and across the country have been super impactful on getting messaging out. They haven't caused accidents as far as safety of the pedestrians. I think they're doing a good job of putting together their own safety plans. So I think this is, again, a solution in search of a problem. And I think that this won't pass muster if it does get passed. So just think about that.
Thank you, Silvano. Next, we have Brenda Clark, followed by M. Cento.
Hello, thank you. I'm a volunteer with several local organizations here in Genesee County, and I'm here today because what you're trying to do isn't just about rules, it's about people. When you take away sidewalks, when you take away overpasses as spaces to speak or gather or just exist, you're not moving protest, you're pushing people out of public sight. For a lot of us, these spaces are the only places that we can be heard. And for many folks living without housing, they're the only places they can be. When rules like this pass, it's not the powerful who get swept aside, it's the poor, it's the protesters, it's the people who are already struggling to survive. We've seen this before when the civil rights movement was rising and sidewalks and bridges were places where people took a stand, and where poor people and workers demand dignity, they did it in the open, not behind closed doors. And when the unhoused have nowhere to go, it's the same spaces when they're most visible, where they're most visible. This rule isn't about safety, because if it were about the safety, MDOT will be working to protect people, not disappear them. What this rule does is turn sidewalks, rest stops, and overpasses into places where only silence is allowed. And silence is dangerous when it comes to civil rights. The homeless community is already treated like they're invisible. Protesters are treated like a nuisance. If these rules pass, both groups will be pushed further to the edges, where nobody has to see them and nobody has to hear them. But here's the truth. Erasing people from sight doesn't make the problems go away. It just makes it easier for those in the power to ignore them. The visibility brigade stands on bridges because that's where people see it, because being visible is the first step to being heard. And being heard is how change starts. I'm not asking MDOT to remove or rewrite any language in this proposal that takes away the right to peacefully gather or to hold signs or simply exist in these spaces. Don't use safety to hide what this really is, an attempt to make certain people disappear. We can't build a just state by hiding the most vulnerable. We build justice by making space for everyone. That includes people protesting, that includes people out without homes, and that includes all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Next is M. Cento, followed by Sarek. M. Cento, it looks like you are still muted. If you are able to find the little mic
Hello?
icon. Yeah, now we can hear
Hello?
you.
Okay, it wasn't working at first, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I have a question more in regards to what the MDOT meeting has spoke of in regards to right-of-ways related to our MDOT highways. Is any of this address what I consider to be a biggest problem, far more than any rest areas or other welcome centers, is those that are panhandling and soliciting money, sometimes food, whatever, along the edges of our bypasses, our roads and stuff, and causing a great amount of danger to both themselves and associated car accidents in those areas. A tremendous amount of litter has developed in areas around where this takes place, from people giving somebody a pizza or a drink or this or that. And my question is more or less, if we're focusing on things and making this a safer and better place, our roads and highways and rest areas, what is MDOT doing to address those items along those areas?
All right. Thank you. We, at this point, are just taking comments and not really into answering questions. However, I can say that MDOT is not an enforcement agency. So we really don't have a process in place for enforcement in those situations.
So would there be any rules or laws that are trying to be implemented for those pedestrians and such in time spent in those areas, though, in this new package?
So the intent of the rules are to discourage behaviors that could be linked to panhandling or loitering or soliciting. We don't use those words in the actual rules, but our goal is to establish expectations that people know that we're looking for short-term timeframes, not long-term timeframes.
Thank you both. All right, next is Sarek, followed by Olivia Vitale.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I own and operate a logistics and a taxi company in the Western UP up in the Keweenaw area. And a lot of people are losing their homes because of bank issues or whatever. The economy sucks bad. And a lot of them have been using the wayside rests for a place to sleep at night because there's not really any option. So I have a suggestion, rather than saying you can't do it, put up QR code signs on there and say, if you want to spend more than 8 hours here to sleep, you take your phone, take it, and you pay $5 or $10, and that will help to offset the upkeep of the area. And I think that would be more beneficial with the economy that we're in right now. That's a suggestion for you guys.
Thank you, Sarek. Next is Olivia Vitale.
Hello again. I'm James with Olivia. Just wanted to add one thing, and I wanted to just if these rules do end up being enacted, I just want there to be an official statement on why these rules were drafted. If there was some huge increase in crime at these public rest areas, or if there was some reason for this, or if it was just maybe the logistics of the administrative side of enacting all these things, because the public view of this is definitely that it's directly in relation to free speech, people protesting on the overpasses, the increase in homeless because the economy is down. So I just want it's bad optics for the state, and I just want to make sure that whatever reason there was for this to be brought up now, I want it to be very clear and articulated, so that way there's no confusion later on about why these decisions were made now versus before. And that's my only comment.
Thank you, James. All right, there are no other hands raised. We do have one person who joined by phone, so I will read the last four digits of your phone number. And if you'd like to unmute and share a public comment, please do so. If not, you can just stay quiet or say pass. And the last four digits of the phone number are 8764.
That's not the last four digits of my phone number, but I am on phone. So I just want to make sure I'm not being missed.
Oh, thank you. Are you Susan?
No, I am 1361. Crystal?
Thank you. It looks like I don't see your hand raised, so I'm glad you spoke up. Why don't you go ahead and provide your public comment right now?
Okay, so I'm very active in the scene. I am about to be unhoused myself at the end of this month. And you guys, I cannot find the actual legal statements on what you guys are trying to propose here, and your terminology is very vague. When you say soliciting, that encompasses protesting, that encompasses selling wares, that encompasses a lot of things, not just panhandling, okay? When you guys sit there and say safety, that is such a blanket term, and that is so vague. You can then take anybody and criminalize them for quote unquote safety and pull whatever out of your hat. These are not okay actions. And that goes back to what the last guy said. The optics are very, very bad. Most of us who are unhoused and have to live in our van, that is the last bit of shelter we have. That is the last bit of dignity that we have. And now we are directly under attack. It is already a civil offense or infraction to overstay your welcome, to dump, etc. These laws are already in place. So this is huge overreach with vague language that is unnecessary, that is indeed a direct attack on protesting, freedom of speech, and the unhoused that are already disenfranchised, those that are already trying to get their voices heard. This is not okay actions. All right. We don't want to be in our cars. This was not my choice. These safety net programs, I'm fighting for disability and just had spinal surgery. These safety net programs have failed me. Okay. This is not where I want to be. And so taking this and criminalizing it, what are you going to do then? Impound my home because that's what I have? And then take away my service dog and put her in a shelter and then give me fines that I cannot afford to pay because I literally have no income. So this is a direct attack on people like me, and this is not okay.
Thank you, Crystal. From what I can see, we have one additional hand raised, and that is Susan. And if anyone else would like to provide a comment, please feel free to use the little raise hand icon, or at the end, we'll see if anyone else would like to unmute and speak. Go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. I had one follow-up question. Earlier you said that there would be state legislature that would have some involvement. Could you just repeat that? I didn't get the full thing.
Sure. Let me look at the slide, and Greg can jump in. But basically, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules is a committee comprised of 5 senators and 5 state representatives from Michigan's legislature. And go ahead, Greg.
No, you nailed it. I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah. So I believe the next step in the process after MDOT carefully considers all the comments to see, what revisions are in alignment with the rules, they go to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Next with a raised hand is Jerry Vanderrost.
You hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay. I'm the township supervisor of Charleston Township at exit 88 along I-94 at 40th Street. I have a carpool. The township has taken the responsibility. We put on 2 new street lights along there. We pick up litter, and we have trash receptacles that we collect and haul away and to put in our garbage and the rest of them. The problem I've got is the weeds are terrible. I measured them yesterday, and they're 70 inches high. That's almost 6 foot high. They said there's bees involved in that, but it hasn't been mowed all year. There's a dismantled vehicle that's been without a tire for weeks, the front tire, and it's just sitting there. It's been several weeks in that. I have 2 people last night that I checked on that are still living there permanently at that's at carpool. One of them is an RV with a generator that they've hooked up outside. It's hooked to the RV, and the other one is a car that's totally full of stuff in it, and the rest of them. My concern is the human waste. If this is a carpool, there's nowhere for them to get rid of their waste or anything else. If we're going to allow longer, then we need to put portable restrooms in these areas in order to take care of human waste and that. I got somebody who's coming to my township board next week who had somebody who they tracked from the carpool who came to their house at night, late at night, and approached them for asking for different things. So this is a safety issue. This carpool is in a building, a hole in the ground, and it's hard to people to see and to keep an eye on it and that. I feel for those who were without houses and that, but we've never been approached asking for help. If they came to us and said they needed help, we'd be there. But we've never been approached by anybody asking for help and the rest of that. So that's some of my concerns. Something needs to be done. We do need to. We are responsible for safety and welfare and for their safety for those who may be homeless. So thank you for your time and listening to my spiel.
Thank you, Jerry. Next we have Jane Manella Larsh. Jane, it looks like you may be trying to speak, but we are not hearing your audio. Jane, since we're still not hearing you, we can go to the next person and come back to you. Sometimes just clicking on the mute button, which is that microphone icon. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 times for it to unmute. Are you able to speak now? If not, we will just circle back to you. All right, Jane, I don't hear you yet, so we'll come back to you. Next is Henry Davies.
Hello, my name is Henry Davies. I live in UP, and the part of the rules say no swimming, but there are several roadside parks in the area that one of the main things that people do there is swim. A couple of them are on Lake Superior, one of them's on a little inland lake. Is this a universal thing? I understand you're not answering questions, but it seems like that shouldn't be a universal thing if there's an appropriate swimming area. But so the ones involved are the Scott Falls Roadside Park, Deer Lake Roadside Park, and the Autry River. Those are the ones I'm thinking of. I'm sure there are more in the state, but that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Henry. Jane, would you like to try to unmute and share your comment?
I believe Jane Minetta is trying to get back in the meeting, so
okay. Thank you,
her,
Grace.
and hopefully she'll be able to.
All right, thank you, Grace. We can just wait a few minutes. There are no other hands raised at this moment. If there is anyone else who would like to speak, feel free to raise your hand, or at this moment. Oh, Jane, it looks like Jane is back in, so let's go ahead, Jane. Jane, I still was not able to hear you. One option, if you would like to still verbally leave a comment, if you are able to use that MDOT-public comments@michigan.gov email, if you email that with your phone number, we'll be able to still verbally record your verbal comment, since the audio doesn't seem to be working at this moment. All right, Jerry, I see your hand is up. Would you like to provide another comment? Go right ahead.
I'd just like to request that you could show the address. Again, I didn't get to the post office box, and so sometime before the end, you could put the address where to send these comments.
Yes, great reminder, Jerry. We will do that as soon as we are done with comments. Is there anyone else who would like to provide a public comment at this time? All right, it looks like Shannon Tanis raised her hand to provide another comment. So Shannon, go ahead if you would like to add an additional comment.
I would like to add, I would implore this body or department to get with other public bodies to come up with creative solutions to alleviate criminalizing the homelessness before inciting these type of rules. Like I said, we're in extraordinary times of precedent crisis of homelessness, and the importance that children should not be impacted in families, and the breakdown and limbo state that creates with the multitude of government bodies that are supposed to be providing benefits throughout their attachments through the Social Welfare Act, and not being able to meet that. I think we really need to come to the table to really address this before we continue to incite these harms further upon the people, because as it is with rumor of food stamp benefits being cut off in November 1st and higher requirements that families and children are going to be in more state of crisisness to survive with basic needs, there are going to be more people that have become homeless in the very near future because they're not going to be able to survive the impact of what's going on. So we really need to come together to come up with extraordinary creative solutions to solve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, I will go ahead and share the process for providing written public comments and the 3 ways you can do so. Just 1 second here, it's loading on my end. Here we go. All right, you can provide written comments through our website, which is michigan.gov/row rules, by email, which is mdot-publiccomments@michigan.gov. They can also be left at any MDOT-owned, at any roadside highway rest area. We have comment boxes with forms you can fill out and leave in the comment box, and also by U.S. mail, and the address is there on the screen. Our public comment period will close on November 20th, and as Greg stated earlier, it began on October 1st. And here is some more information on how you can get connected to us, even if you have general questions or need more information beyond leaving a formal public comment. Please use these methods as well. And I'd like to sincerely thank you for participating in today's hearing. Your input is greatly appreciated and will be carefully considered. At this point, if no one else would like to provide a verbal comment, we are able to conclude the hearing, and you are free to exit this team meeting. And thank you very much for your time today. It is truly appreciated.